3 years ago this month, age 54, I was officially diagnosed as being autistic. Here in the UK, the official term is ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder. But what exactly is autism? Could you be autistic? And what is the process that you need to go through to get a diagnosis? What are some of the myths and misunderstandings surrounding autism too? So in this video, I'm going to answer those questions and a little bit more. It's coming up. Welcome back, it's Eddie here, and if you're new to the channel, I kind of cover adventure and lifestyle, how to be the best version of yourself, how to get the best out of life. If those sort of videos appeal to you, you know what to do, man. Hit that subscribe button and the bell so every time I release a new video, you'll get a notification. So this video I'm doing today here on the beautiful South Shields beach again is about autism. And to kick off, first of all, we need to know exactly what autism is. Autism is a lifelong neurological developmental disability which can result in repetitive behaviour patterns, affect how we interact with others, and how information is processed. Autistic people may exhibit some or all of these other common traits: finding it hard to understand how other people think and miss social cues, can find bright lights or loud noises uncomfortable, get anxious or upset about unfamiliar situations and social events, take longer to understand information, do or think the same things over and over, masking, which is a strategy developed to camouflage or blend in with other people, and a suppression of autistic traits. Autism is not an illness, it can't be cured, and autism is different for everyone. People with autism can have other conditions like ADHD, dyslexia, anxiety, depression, and epilepsy. Something I find really unhelpful, even really annoying, is when you tell somebody that you're autistic and then they come back and say something like, well, we're all on a spectrum. That's really not a cool thing to say, and you need to understand what that sounds like to somebody who's autistic and the effect it can have by attempting to normalise this condition. Is that it's a bit like saying to somebody in a wheelchair, well, we've all got aches and pains in our legs. You just need to stand up, man. Put some weight on it. You'll be all right. In one respect, those who say we're all on a spectrum are right, correct. In terms of personality, because we're all on a personality spectrum where we're all a little bit different. We have quirks and foibles and idiosyncrasies and glitches. That's within the normal range of just being a human being. Autism is a lifelong debilitating condition, and it has, for those of us who have it, can have a devastating impact on our day-to-day lives. In addition to all that, I think I need to point out the significance of autism, because here in the UK, I can't speak for the USA or other countries around the world, ASD is, under the terms of the Disability at Work Act, a registered disability. It has that much of a profound impact on somebody's life due to how we process information, how we interact with others and the world around us, and how we learn. You could loosely say that autism could be described as a learning disability as well. So I just want to address the word normal, because to the layperson, normal means any number of things. It's very subjective. As I just mentioned before, we can all be a bit odd, so it can be a bit misleading. But in psychology world, we're kind of grouped into two categories: those who are neurotypical, normal, who interact with the world within a range, in normal ways, and can function in life in a normal way. And those who have kind of strayed off the path, our wiring's a little bit different to other people, and we are neurodivergent. We're not typical, we're not normal. So I just wanted to make that distinction. Now, for me personally, going throughout my life, I don't know if this has been a good thing or a bad thing, because with some people with autism, you can see just by looking at them, they're autistic. Their mannerisms and their behaviours makes it patently obvious that there's something not quite right and they're probably autistic. With me, it's completely different to most people. Unless somebody's piercingly observant, you wouldn't know that I'm autistic. You can watch and listen to me now, stringing sentences together, seemingly reasonably intelligent, and never dream in a million years that I'm autistic. But even though I might not look it, underneath, when you look at the wiring and how I behave, I'm absolutely autistic. So I went through my whole life and my personal life and professional life being treated and measured as a normal person. And you can imagine, by looking at those autism traits again, the difficulties and problems I've encountered going through my whole life. And those problems have accumulated over the years, certainly going into my 40s, where in the end it just affects mental health. But to give you the 10-second version how I ended up getting a diagnosis, I had a breakdown in 2018. Complete and utter shed collapse, meltdown, horrible, after years of deteriorating mental health. It's awful. I eventually landed on some CAT, cognitive analytical therapy, which didn't really work for me. I'm not into that. Let's go back to your childhood and let's unpack all that trauma stuff. It got to a point in that therapy where actually it was discussed that I could be autistic. So my therapist put me through a screening test there and then in the office on the computer. And the result of that was that it's likely I could be autistic, but he says I have to put you through a referral process through the NHS. There's a bit of a waiting list. And after 18 months wait, I was given the NHS ADOS test to find out if I was autistic, which part of it is an hour-long phone call which delves into the depths of your life and how you were as a kid and how you've behaved and your mannerisms and all of that. And then you're invited into the clinician's office where you sit in front of two clinicians and you have practical experiments, actually some of it almost like childlike, with child's books and toys to see, and you don't know what they're measuring, so you can't cheat. You know, if you wanted to be autistic, I just went along and did these tests and went away, and then a couple of weeks later I got a letter through the post telling me that 6 clinicians, psychologists and psychiatrists had sat around a table and collectively decided that I should have a diagnosis of being ASD. And that diagnosis for me was like a weight being lifted off my shoulders. All those events and difficulties I'd got myself into throughout my life, everything just slotted into place. I completely understood the context of where all this had come from. And this whole diagnosis process was going on through various stages of lockdown. And a couple of weeks after the diagnosis, we had a Zoom meeting. There was about 12 others who had recently been diagnosed as ASD. The female clinician was informing us of what autism was, what the common traits were, the kind of difficulties we might have faced during our lifetimes. And it's a good job people couldn't see my face because it was just 11 or 12 other faces on there. I was full, my tears were streaming down my face as everything throughout my life just slotted into place. It's an overwhelming feeling. I'm really glad I got the diagnosis. Everything's clicked into place. I now understand myself a lot better, and I'm able to tell people around me to give them heads up that I'm autistic, so I might be a little bit different at times. For those of you out there who think you might be autistic, I would be very careful of these online tests. They're just indicators that you might be autistic. Don't take a test and then self-diagnose yourself as being autistic. Even worse, diagnosing yourself as being Asperger's. We don't have that in the UK. We don't have high functioning autism, level 1 autism in the UK. Can't speak for other countries. In the UK, we get diagnosed as ASD. In terms of high functioning autism, it's an unhelpful term because it suggests there's a low functioning autism, which is one of the reasons we don't have it. So when somebody comes on and one of your autism videos makes a comment to say, I've been diagnosed as Asperger's, you haven't. You've self-diagnosed, you've marked your own homework, and you've took an online test. So, but go to your GP first if you think you're autistic. There might be quite a wait. Our mental health and national health services are decimated at the moment with staff and money, so you might have a long wait, but I guarantee you it'll be worth it when you get that diagnosis. One of the main traits and biggies of autism, and certainly it's a big one for me, is a debilitating, exhausting and damaging social survival mechanism called masking. And I'd never heard of it until I got my diagnosis and I started to learn more about the subject. And it's something I've done all my life and something actually I'd become really, really good at. But in the end, you get found out. But it's not Not just is it about camouflaging yourself and to mimic other people so that you can fit in, you don't stand out, but it's also a suppression of your natural autistic tendencies and inclinations, and it's exhausting. And that in itself brings about over time a decline in your mental health, a deep cause of anxiety. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover masking in a completely different video. Suffice to say, if I had have known, and it was on my medical records, that I was autistic before I joined the police, it's likely I would have never been allowed to get in. So life for me now is very happy. It's balanced, simple, straightforward. I understand my autism, I understand the triggers, the environments I need to avoid, the type of people I need to avoid. I don't mask anymore. I've now got 2 monetized YouTube channels, loving life, loving the simple life. And if you think you might be autistic or are autistic or know somebody who's autistic, once you understand, you can start to put in place a framework, some mechanisms in your life so that you can, there's no reason why you can't just live a substantially wholesome, fulfilling and happy life. I feel like I'm there now, but I do know there are limitations. I tried a couple of jobs after retirement and prior to diagnosis. It was a nightmare for me, it was a nightmare for the other people I know now. For example, I am negligibly unemployable, but there's no way I could hold down a job. It's just too much. Anyway, I hope you found this all very interesting and informative. And if you did, give us a thumbs up, man. And if you want to know what it's like for Helen living with somebody, because she's normal, living with somebody who's autistic, check this video out. Until next time, I'll catch you later.